So this sanctions package resembles many in the past in terms of some financial sanctions, some sanctioning of individuals, and some sanctioning of corporations inside of Russia. But the big difference of this one is that it does two things which are different from previous rounds of sanctions. The first one is that it not only sanctions the Russian intelligence agencies, but it also sanctions different organizations that create the content which is necessary for the influence campaigns, for the disinformation that we hear about quite a lot. So it's really going to the source root of what creates the negative messages that the United States wants to combat. The second thing, which is probably even bigger, is that for the first time, the United States, through the Treasury Department, has sanctioned new debt coming from Russian government sources. Its finance ministry, central bank, and its sovereign wealth fund. And what that means is basically most states don't have enough money to just pay out of the Treasury or their central bank all their ongoing needs. So they sell debt, they sell loans to the rest of the world. This is what hedge funds buy, this is what big banks buy. And so what the Treasury Department has done is to say that from June 14th of this year, U.S. financial institutions are no longer going to be able to buy that debt, to buy those loans for Russia, which then funds basically Russia's ongoing expenses. Now, the United States doesn't, and U.S. financial institutions don't make up the big customers for that sort of debt. But what that means is that in the future, it's possible that the United States might enforce secondary sanctions, which is anyone who wants to do business with someone who does have Russian debt might get sanctioned. And they might also sanction the buying and selling of Russian debt on the secondary market. So stuff that was issued even before June of this year. And that could really, in fact, limit the ability of Russia to actually get money from anything other than more or less oil sales and whatever else that they export.
Now, so Yuval, by targeting the source root and this new debt that you tell us of, do you think these punitive measures can actually achieve, changing Moscow's behavior from election meddling, cyber hacks, to a military buildup in Crimea even?
So that's what's difficult. The sanctions, both in practice and, in theory, they work best if the thing that's being sanctioned is very clear. The ability to essentially use an off-ramp to stop doing it is also clear, and the escalation of what happens if they don't stop doing it is also clear. And so with all of America's sanctions policies and sanctions regime, what's always been clear is the thing that America doesn't like. It's always been clear what America will do next. But the problem is with this sanctions package, as well as basically all the other ones before, is that they sanction more or less all of Russian foreign policy. Because as you said, cyber intrusion, cyber hacking, Crimea, all the other things that we could mention, all of those things put together is how Russia does foreign policy, is how Russia tries to present itself as a great power on the international stage. So if President Putin were to say, you know what, this is the one, we can't handle this, this is really going to tie our hands, we're going to stop doing X, Y, Z. Right. Well, then everyone in the world, the United States, as well as the Russian elite and the Russian public would know that's the limit of Russian power. That's the limit of what Putin can do. And that would be, in effect, the beginning of the end for Putin, because he would not then be able to say, I'm the strongest person in the room. There's nothing that the United States can do that'll actually change the way, I act or what I think is best for Russian interests. And so that's essentially why all these sanctions really do quite a lot of damage to the Russian economy, but why Putin always resists. And, what Putin is going to say to this is the Russians have amassed about $750 billion in basically their, country version of basically a savings account in order to withstand all the damage that these sanctions do, in order to allow Putin not to actually change anything about Russian foreign policy. And that's basically the negative relationship that we're in.